I was scrolling through Instagram on a Tuesday night, exhausted from a double shift when I saw it. The album. 37 photos of smiling faces, coordinated outfits, a banner that read, Family Reunion 2024, stretched across my parents' backyard. Everyone was there, my parents. My sister Vanessa and her husband, my aunts, uncles, cousins, even distant relatives I barely remembered. They looked happy. They looked whole. They looked like the kind of family you see in commercials, the kind that makes you believe in something warm and unbreakable. But my daughter wasn't in a single one. Sophie, 9 years old, big brown eyes. The kind of kid who still believes people are good until they prove otherwise. She wasn't there because she was never invited. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I scrolled back to the beginning and looked again, like maybe I'd missed her somehow. Maybe she was in the background, maybe just out of frame. But no, she didn't exist in those photos. And the worst part? They knew exactly what they were doing because 3 weeks earlier, I'd received the invitation in the mail. Heavy cardstock, gold lettering, addressed to me. Just me. Not and guest. Not and family. Just my name, like Sophie, was a secret I'd been caught keeping. I knew something was wrong the moment I opened that envelope. It sat on the kitchen counter for 2 days before I called my mom. I kept thinking maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was a printing error. Maybe they assumed I'd know Sophie was included. But deep down, I already knew the truth. When I finally called, my mom answered on the third ring. Her voice had that tight, cheerful edge she uses when she's about to say something she knows I won't like. "Oh, hi, sweetheart," she said. "I was just thinking about you." I didn't waste time. "Mom, the invitation. It only has my name on it." Silence. Then a sigh. "Well, we thought it might be nice to have an adult-only event this year. You know, something more relaxed." Relaxed. As if my daughter's presence was stressful. "Sophie's 9, I said slowly. "She's not a toddler. She's family." Another pause. I could hear the television in the background, the clink of dishes. My mom was multitasking through this conversation like it didn't matter. "Vanessa thought it would be better this way," she said finally. "The other kids are older now, teenagers. Sophie's just at a different stage." A different stage, and that's what they were calling it now. Not exclusion, not cruelty. Just a different stage. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "So you're saying my daughter isn't welcome?" "Don't be dramatic," my mom snapped. "It's one event. You're making this into something it's not." I wasn't making it into anything. They had already done that. I was just finally seeing it clearly. Before I could respond, I heard Vanessa's voice in the background. "Is that her? Let me talk to her." The phone rustled. Then Vanessa's voice came through, sharp and impatient. "Look, I know you're upset, but this isn't personal. Sophie just doesn't really fit in with the other kids. She's too quiet. She doesn't play the same games. It's awkward for everyone." Too quiet. Awkward for everyone. I thought about all the birthday parties where Sophie sat alone while her cousins ran around screaming. The holidays where she tried to join in and got ignored. The family photos where she was always placed at the very edge, half out of frame, like an afterthought. "She's 9 years old," I said, my voice shaking. "She's a child. And she's your niece." "And she's also kind of weird," Vanessa said flatly. "I'm just being honest. The other kids don't want her around. Why force it?" I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just pressed the red button and sat there in the kitchen, staring at the invitation. Sophie walked in a moment later, holding her sketchbook. She'd been drawing family trees for a school project, complete with little portraits of everyone. She'd spent hours on it, carefully labeling each branch. "Mom, do you think Grandma will like this?" she asked, holding it up. I looked at the drawing. She'd put herself right in the center, surrounded by hearts. I told her the reunion was canceled. I said there was a scheduling conflict. She believed me because she's 9 and she still trusts me to tell her the truth. 3 days later, the photos started appearing. First on Vanessa's Instagram, then my mom's Facebook, then my aunt's page. Dozens of them. Everyone was laughing. Everyone is together. The caption on Vanessa's post read, "Family is everything." So grateful for these moments. Sophie saw them while I was in the shower. I came out to find her sitting on the couch, my phone in her lap, her face pale. "You said it was canceled," she whispered. I froze. She looked up at me, eyes already filling. "Why didn't we go?" Did I do something wrong? That question broke something in me. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder and sharper. Clarity. I sat down next to her and pulled her close. "You didn't do anything wrong," and I said, "Not one thing." "Then why?" I didn't answer. Because how do you explain to a child that some people don't know how to love you the way you deserve? That some people will always see you as less than, no matter what you do? I just held her while she cried. And when she finally fell asleep that night, I stayed awake. Thinking, planning, deciding. It wasn't always like this. When I was a kid, I thought our family was normal. I didn't know any different. I was the oldest. Vanessa was born 3 years later. From the beginning, she was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. When I brought home straight A's, my parents nodded and said, "Good job." When Vanessa brought home a B-, they threw a pizza party. When I helped with chores, it was expected. When Vanessa picked up a dish, she got praised for being so mature. I learned early that love in my family was a limited resource, and Vanessa had the premium access. By the time I was 12, I was basically a third parent. I made breakfast before school, I packed lunches, I helped Vanessa with her homework while my parents worked late or watched television. Nobody asked if I minded. It was just assumed. That's what the oldest does. When I got into college, I was proud. I worked hard. I had scholarships lined up. I thought maybe finally they'd see me. My dad nodded. My mom said, "Just don't get too ambitious. Men don't like women who think they're better than everyone else." Vanessa was 14. She said, "Does this mean I get your room?" I moved into a dorm with 2 roommates and a meal plan I could barely afford. I worked part-time at a campus bookstore, took extra shifts during breaks, survived on instant ramen and library coffee. Meanwhile, Vanessa stayed home, got a car for her 16th birthday, and changed her major 3 times before dropping out entirely. When I graduated, nobody came to the ceremony. My mom said it was too far to drive. Vanessa had a dance recital that day. My dad said he had to work. I wore my cap and gown and sat in a sea of strangers while families cheered around me. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was strong enough not to need them. I met Sophie's father a year later. He was charming, funny, completely wrong for me. I knew it even then. But I was lonely, and he made me feel seen. When I got pregnant, he disappeared before I even finished telling him. Just said he wasn't ready, packed his things, and left. I called my mom from the bathroom floor, sobbing. She sighed. "Well, you made your choice." That was it. No comfort, no support, just judgment. Sophie was born on a rainy October morning, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, perfect. I held her in the hospital room and made a promise. She would never feel unwanted. She would never question whether she was loved. It would be enough. My parents visited once. Vanessa didn't come at all. Over the years, I tried. I really did. I brought Sophie to every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering. I dressed her in cute outfits. I taught her to say please and thank you. I made sure she was polite, quiet, and easy. But it was never enough. At Christmas, the other kids got personalized stockings. Sophie got a generic one from Target. At Easter, her basket was half the size. At birthdays, her gifts were always an afterthought. A book someone picked up at the grocery store, a stuffed animal from the clearance bin, and the photos. God, the photos. Every single family picture Sophie was placed at the very end, standing slightly apart. Sometimes half cropped out when they printed them. I noticed. But I told myself I was being paranoid, that it wasn't intentional. Then one Thanksgiving, when Sophie was 7, my aunt was taking a group photo. She arranged everyone carefully. When Sophie tried to stand in the front with the other kids, my aunt gently moved her. "Let's put the little ones up front," she said. Then she positioned Vanessa's daughter and my cousin's twins in the prime spots. Sophie ended up in the back, barely visible behind someone's shoulder. I saw it happen, and I said nothing. I regret that more than anything. That's the thing about this kind of cruelty. It's not loud, it's not obvious, it's 1,000 small cuts that you can explain away if you want to. Oh, they just forgot. Oh, it's not personal. Oh, you're being too sensitive, until one day you look at your daughter's face and realize she's stopped asking why. She's just accepted that this is how it is, that she's less than, that she doesn't belong. That moment, sitting on the couch with her after seeing those reunion photos, was the moment I stopped making excuses for them. I wasn't angry, I was done. And being done, I've learned, is so much more powerful than being angry. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, type invisible in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone in this, and if you're new here, please subscribe. This story gets even more intense, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The next morning, Sophie didn't want to go to school. She said her stomach hurt. I knew it wasn't physical. I let her stay home. We spent the day on the couch watching old movies, eating popcorn for lunch, pretending everything was fine. But I couldn't stop thinking about those photos, about Vanessa's caption. Family is everything. What a lie. That night, after Sophie went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I started going through everything, old emails, text messages, bank statements. I wasn't looking for anything specific at first. I was just trying to understand how we got here, how I'd let this go on for so long. Then I started seeing the patterns, the loans I'd given my parents that were never paid back, the times I'd covered Vanessa's rent when she was between jobs, the birthday gifts, the emergency expenses, the just this once favors that became expected. I opened a spreadsheet. I'm good with numbers. It's one of the reasons I'm good at my job. I started adding it up. $2,000 to my parents for car repairs 3 years ago. $1,500 to Vanessa for her security deposit. $800 for my mom's dental work. $500 here, $300 there. It added up faster than I expected. Over the course of 10 years, I'd given my family over $30,000. And I'd never asked for any of it back. Because that's not what family does, right? You help each other. You don't keep score. Except they were keeping score, just in a different way. Then I remembered something else. When my grandmother died 8 years ago, she left a small property upstate, a cabin on 2 acres. Nothing fancy, but it was worth something. She split it between me and Vanessa in her will. Equal shares. But Vanessa was in college at the time, completely uninterested in dealing with it. So I took care of everything. I paid the property taxes. I hired someone to maintain it. I found renters. I managed the lease agreements. And every month, I split the rental income 50-50 with Vanessa. She never thanked me. She just sent a thumbs-up emoji when I transferred her half. For 8 years, I'd been doing all the work. And she'd been collecting the money like it was her birthright. I pulled up the property records, the deed, the tax payments, the rental agreements, all in my name. Vanessa's name was on the will, but she'd never signed a single document. She'd never contributed a single dollar. She'd never even visited the property. Legally, I wasn't sure where that left us. So I decided to find out. The next morning, I called a lawyer. His name was Martin. He'd helped a friend of mine with an estate issue a few years ago. He had a calm, no-nonsense voice that made me feel like maybe this wasn't insane. I explained everything: the exclusion, the years of favoritism, the money I'd lent, the property situation. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a pause. Then he said, "You have options." Several of them. We set up a meeting for the following week. I didn't tell anyone. Not Sophie. Not my parents. Not Vanessa. I just went about my life like nothing had changed. I worked my shifts. I made dinner. I helped Sophie with her homework. But inside, something was different. I felt calmer than I had in years. Like I'd finally stopped trying to hold up a building that was always going to collapse. The meeting with Martin lasted 2 hours. He went through everything methodically. The loans could be pursued in small claims court, but that would be messy and expensive. Better to start with a formal demand letter. The property was more complicated. Since Vanessa had never signed any documents or contributed financially, I had a strong case for claiming full ownership. Or at the very least, for renegotiating the terms of our arrangement. "What do you want out of this?" Martin asked. I thought about it. "I want them to understand that actions have consequences. I want them to know they can't just erase my daughter and expect everything to stay the same." He nodded. "Then let's make it clear." Over the next week, Martin drafted a series of letters. One to my parents, detailing the loans I'd made and requesting repayment within 90 days. One to Vanessa, outlining my intention to restructure the property arrangement. And one to the family as a whole, informing them that I would be taking a step back from all family events and financial support until a formal apology was made to Sophie. Not to me, to Sophie. He made it clear this wasn't about money. It was about respect, about acknowledgement, about the fact that a 9-year-old girl had been excluded from her own family and nobody seemed to think that was a problem. The letters were professional, cold, legally airtight. I read through them 3 times before I signed. "Are you sure?" Martin asked. I thought about Sophie's face when she saw those photos. "I'm sure. We sent them certified mail, all on the same day. I tracked the deliveries obsessively. My parents' letter arrived on a Wednesday, Vanessa's on Thursday. The group letter, addressed to my aunt's house where most family mail gets sorted, arrived on Friday. Then I waited. The first call came Saturday morning, my mother. I let it go to voicemail. "What is this? What are you trying to do? Call me back right now." I deleted it. The second call came an hour later. "Vanessa," I didn't answer. Her voicemail was 3 minutes of screaming. Words like insane and vindictive and destroying the family. I saved it. By Sunday, my phone was ringing nonstop. I turned off the ringer. I made pancakes with Sophie. We went to the park. We fed the ducks. We came home and watched a movie. My phone sat on the counter, vibrating silently like a trapped insect. Monday morning, my dad called. I answered. "You need to explain yourself," he said. "No hello, no how are you, just accusation." "I think the letters are pretty clear," I said calmly. "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child." "Sophie's the child," I said. "And you excluded her from a family event. So who's really being ridiculous?" Silence, then. We were trying to make things easier. "For who?" I asked. He didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said, and I hung up. Tuesday, Vanessa showed up at my door. I was expecting it, honestly. She's always been the type to confront things head-on when she thinks she's right. She pounded on the door like the police. I opened it slowly. She was furious, face red, eyes wild. "You can't do this," she said, pushing past me into the house. "You can't just cut us off and make demands." "I didn't cut you off," I said. "I just stopped enabling you." "Enabling?" She laughed, high and sharp. "I'm your sister. And Sophie's your niece. But you didn't seem to remember that when you planned the reunion?" She faltered. Just for a second. Then she recovered. "She doesn't fit in." "I'm sorry, but it's true. The other kids don't like her." "She's 9, I said. "They're teenagers." "Of course they don't play together, but that's not why you excluded her. You excluded her because she's mine, because I had her without being married, because she doesn't fit your perfect little family narrative." Vanessa's mouth opened, closed. "That's not—" "It is," I said, "and you know it. You've been doing it her whole life, and I let you, but I'm not letting you anymore." She stared at me. "So what? You're just going to take the cabin? Keep all the money for yourself?" "I'm going to stop doing all the work while you collect half the profit," I said. "If you want to co-manage the property, you're welcome to. But that means actually managing it, paying your share of the taxes, dealing with the tenants, doing the work." She looked at me like I'd suggested she climb Everest. "I don't have time for that." "Then you don't get the money." Her face twisted. "You're punishing me because I didn't invite your weird kid to a party." The word weird hit me like a slap. "Get out," I said quietly. What? Get out of my house. Now, she hesitated. Then she saw my face, and she left. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Sophie was standing at the top of the stairs. I don't know how long she'd been there. Mom? She said softly. I walked up and hugged her. We're okay, I said. We're going to be okay. Okay, I need to pause here for a second, because what happens next is where everything really changes. If you're still watching, thank you. I know this is a lot. But the best part of this story is coming up next, and I promise you, it's worth it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I need to know this story is reaching people who understand. The fallout was immediate. Within 48 hours, the entire extended family knew. My phone was flooded with messages. Some were supportive. My cousin Rachel texted, "About time someone stood up to them." My uncle Dave called to say he'd always thought the way they treated Sophie was wrong, but most of the messages were angry. How could I do this to my own family? How could I be so selfish? Didn't I know forgiveness was important? My Aunt Linda left a voicemail that was 7 minutes long. She cried. She said I was breaking my mother's heart. She said Sophie would grow up thinking it's okay to cut people off over small misunderstandings. Small misunderstandings. That's what they were calling it. Not cruelty, not exclusion. Just a small misunderstanding. I didn't respond to any of them. Martin had advised me not to engage. Let the letters speak for themselves, he said. If they want to resolve this, they know what they need to do. They needed to apologize to Sophie. That was it. That was the only thing I'd asked for. A genuine, sincere apology to a 9-year-old girl who'd done nothing wrong. You'd think it would be simple. 2 weeks passed. No apology came. Instead, my mom started a whisper campaign. She told people I was having a breakdown, that I was under a lot of stress, that I wasn't thinking clearly. Vanessa posted on Facebook about the importance of forgiveness and family loyalty. She didn't mention me by name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew who she was talking about. The comments were full of supportive messages. You're so strong. Family is everything. Some people just don't understand. I screenshot it all, just in case. Then the lawyers got involved. Vanessa hired someone, sent me a letter claiming she had equal rights to the property and demanding I continue the 50-50 split. Martin responded with a comprehensive breakdown of my contributions versus hers. Property taxes, maintenance costs, time spent managing tenants, every receipt, every payment, every hour of work I'd done while she did nothing. Her lawyer went quiet after that, but my parents didn't. They kept calling, kept texting. My dad sent an email with the subject line, "Family Reconciliation." Inside, he'd written a long letter about how I was being manipulated by lawyers and making decisions I'd regret. He said I was choosing money over family. He didn't mention Sophie once. I replied with one sentence. I'm choosing my daughter over people who don't respect her. He didn't respond. 3 weeks after I sent the letters, my mom showed up at Sophie's school. I got a call from the principal. She said my mother had tried to check Sophie out early, claiming there was a family emergency. The school, thank God, followed protocol. They called me first. I was at work. I left immediately. By the time I got there, my mom was sitting in the office, arms crossed, face set in a hard line. Sophie was in the classroom, unaware. What are you doing? I asked. I wanted to see my granddaughter, my mom said. You won't return my calls. You won't let me visit. What else am I supposed to do? Don't show up at her school uninformed, I said. Not lie about an emergency. I didn't lie. This is an emergency. You're keeping her from her family. The principal cleared her throat. Mrs. Anderson, I think it's best if you leave now. My mom stood. She looked at me. You're going to regret this, she said. One day you'll be alone. And you'll realize what you gave up. I gave up people who hurt my daughter. I said, I can live with that. She left. I had to update Sophie's school records that day. Added a note that my mother was not authorized to pick her up under any circumstances. Sophie asked why. I told her Grandma was confused about the schedule. She nodded, but I could see the question in her eyes. She was getting old enough to sense when I wasn't telling her everything. That night, I sat her down. Sophie, I said, I need to tell you something. She put down her book. Am I in trouble? No, baby. Not at all. I took a breath. You know how we didn't go to the family reunion? She nodded. And you know how I said it was canceled? Another nod. Her eyes were getting wider. I wasn't telling you the truth. It wasn't canceled. They just didn't invite you. Her face went very still. Why? I don't know, I said honestly. But it wasn't because of anything you did. It was because of something wrong with them. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, do they not like me? I think they don't know how to like people who are different from what they expect. And that's their problem, not yours. She nodded slowly. Processing. Are we still a family? She asked. You and me? Always, I said. We're the best family. She hugged me, tight. When she pulled back, she said, I'm glad we didn't go. Me too, baby, me too. A month after the letters went out, something shifted. The calls slowed down. The messages became less frequent. It was like they'd finally realized I wasn't going to break. Then one afternoon, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I want to talk, he said. No yelling. No accusations. Just talk. I met him at a coffee shop near my work. Neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. We sat across from each other in silence for a minute. Then he said, Your mother is devastated. Good, I said. He blinked. Excuse me? She should be devastated. She excluded her granddaughter from a family event and then acted like it was no big deal. If she's not devastated by that, then something's wrong with her. He rubbed his face. You're not being fair. Sophie's 9 years old, Dad. She drew a family tree for school with everyone's name on it. She asked Grandma if she'd like it, and Grandma didn't even hang it on the fridge. So tell me again how I'm not being fair. He was quiet. Then he said, Vanessa thought. I don't care what Vanessa thought. She was wrong. And you backed her up instead of protecting your granddaughter. We didn't think. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think so. You didn't think about how Sophie would feel. You didn't think about what it would do to her to be left out. You just did what was easiest for you. He stared at his coffee. What do you want from us? An apology. To Sophie. Not to me. To her. A real one. And then? And then we'll see. He nodded. I'll talk to your mother. No, I said. She needs to decide on her own. If she's only doing it because you told her to, it doesn't count. I left him sitting there. I don't know if he understood. But I'd said what I needed to say. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, my mom called. Can I come over? She asked. Her voice was different, smaller. Why? I asked. I need to talk to Sophie. My heart started pounding. What about? Please, my mom said, just let me come over. I hesitated. Then I said, 1 hour. And if you upset her, you leave. I understand. She arrived 30 minutes later. Sophie was in the living room reading. She looked up when the doorbell rang. Who's that? Grandma, I said. Sophie's face closed. Why? She wants to talk to you. Sophie put down her book. Okay. I opened the door. My mom stood there, hands clasped in front of her. No purse, no coffee. Just her. Hi, she said. Hi, Sophie said quietly. My mom came in. She sat on the couch across from Sophie. I stood near the doorway, ready to intervene if needed. Sophie, my mom said, I need to say something to you. Sophie waited. I was wrong. I was wrong to not invite you to the reunion. I was wrong to make excuses. I was wrong to let other people convince me that it was okay. Her voice cracked. You're my granddaughter. And I should have fought for you. I should have made sure you were there, and I'm so sorry. Sophie looked at her, then at me. I nodded slightly. She turned back to my mom. Why didn't you want me there? It wasn't that I didn't want you there, my mom said. I just, I let other people's opinions matter more than your feelings. And that was wrong. But why? Sophie pressed. Why did they think I shouldn't come? My mom's face crumpled. Because they're small-minded and scared of anything that doesn't fit their idea of perfection. And I should have been brave enough to tell them that. Sophie was quiet. Then she said, I made you a picture. A long time ago. You never put it in your fridge. My mom closed her eyes. I know. The other kids' pictures were up there. I know. So you didn't like mine? I loved it, my mom whispered. I was stupid and selfish. And I don't have an excuse. Sophie looked at her for a long time. Then she said, Okay. Okay? My mom repeated. Okay, I forgive you. But if you do it again, I won't. My mom nodded, tears streaming down her face. I won't. I promise. She looked at me. Can I hug her? I looked at Sophie. She nodded. My mom crossed the room and wrapped her arms around Sophie. They stayed like that for a long time. When my mom finally pulled back, she said, I'm going to do better. I promise. Then she left. Sophie watched her go. Do you think she means it? She asked. I think she's going to try, I said, and we'll see if she does. Sophie nodded. Then she went back to her book. Like it was just another Saturday. It's been 6 months since the letters went out. Since the confrontation. Since everything changed. Vanessa and I don't talk. She still hasn't apologized to Sophie. I don't think she will. My dad calls once a week. We keep it brief. My mom comes over every other Saturday. She brings Sophie small gifts, books, art supplies, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. She asks about school. She listens. She's trying. I can see it. Whether it's enough, I don't know yet, but it's something. The property situation got resolved. Vanessa signed over her share in exchange for a lump sum. It was less than she would have made if she'd kept collecting rent, but more than she deserved given how little she'd contributed. Martin handled it all. Now the cabin is mine. Fully. I've started taking Sophie there on weekends. We hiked, we sat by the lake. We talk about everything and nothing. The extended family is still divided. Some people understand why I did what I did. Some think I overreacted. I don't care either way. I've learned that you can't control what people think of you. You can only control whether you protect the people you love. Sophie is doing better. She's more confident now, more sure of herself. She joined an art class. She made friends who actually want her around. She smiles more. Last week, she drew another family tree. This one was smaller, just her and me. And at the bottom, she wrote, "The people who matter." I framed it. It's hanging in the kitchen now, right where everyone can see it. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing, or should I have forgiven them sooner? I want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Tell me your story. And if this resonated with you, if you've ever had to make a choice between keeping the peace and protecting someone you love, please subscribe. There are more stories like this coming. Real stories, hard stories, stories about what it means to finally choose yourself. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up.